It is time for the fifth and final task of our Intro to Design project and the design notebook that goes with that. Hopefully you've been learning about what the design process actually is, because as we move on after this project, this design notebook, as you are building and creating, you're going to be using the design process. You're going to be inquiring and analyzing. You're going to be developing your ideas. You are going to be creating your solutions and then evaluating that. And so hopefully you've learned what those terms mean and how to use those so that we can move forward with that. So today you're going to draw some conclusions. You're just going to answer some conclusion questions. If possible, when you're answering those, use complete sentences. Capitalization at the beginning, punctuation at the end, a complete thought. That's what a complete sentence is. So use that because it's a good professional way of communicating. When you're done, there's one last daily summary that you want to write, telling us what you learned and how you were successful. And then once you are done, you're going to submit your design notebook. You're going to turn it in. So our essential question today is, what is the purpose of reflection? Why do we think back? Why do we reflect on things that we've done? Why is that an important part of the design process? So at this point, let's open up our design notebooks. So pause the video and open up those design notebooks. All right, our design notebooks are open. Again, blue are the questions that you must answer. Anything with an orange background is going to be a question that you should answer, and pink are those aspire to answer questions that really dig a little bit deeper and going above and beyond. So in our project plan here, let's look at task number 5. So you reviewed as a class, you already reviewed the Design Squad video and your responses, and today you're going to answer those and answer those conclusion questions and then turn in your design notebook once it's completely done. So let's click on the task 5 bookmark. That will drop us right down to the start of task number 5. Our essential question, once again, what is the purpose of reflection? So today, as you're drawing conclusions, you are going to write answers to the following conclusion questions. Please give us details. Explain your response in as much detail as you can. This is your opportunity to share with us as teachers what you have learned about the design process. And you should aspire to write complete sentences. So please try to do that again. And I just mentioned capitalization, punctuation, complete thought. Okay? Give explanation for your answers. So the questions that you're going to answer, the must answer questions, are share an example of when you use the design process outside of school. If you need to look back in your design notebook and go back to day 2 and or task number 2 and the notes, or excuse me, that was task number 3, the notes that you took about what the design process is, do that. How have you used that process outside of the classroom here, outside of school? Second must answer question, how will you give proof to your teacher of using the design process through this class? How are you going to prove that you used the design process? Should be pretty easy. It's kind of right in front of you. Okay? What is one example of success that you had during this design notebook as we've been learning how to fill this out? What's one thing that you think you've been really successful at? And another must answer question is, what is the most challenging part of keeping a design notebook? A should answer question is, what's the purpose of the design process? Why do we have the design process? Why is that something that we're focusing on, do you think? You should answer that question. And then an aspire to answer question in pink here says, based on this rubric, what grade do you think you deserve for these answers? So I'm going to ask you to click on that link. That's an evaluating rubric. And that's going to take you to this document. This is what I and your teachers look at when we're grading your conclusion answers and your evaluating answers. You know, do you just partially develop a correct answer to some of the conclusion questions? That's going to give you this grade of a 1 or a 2. Do you have mostly correct answers? Mostly correct answers most of the time for some of the questions. Okay, that's going to get you a 3 or a 4. To get a 5 or a 6, do you develop good answers, correct answers to most of the conclusion questions using vocabulary? Do you justify or explain your answers? And then to get a 7 or an 8 as a grade, do you develop complete, correct answers to all the questions? Do you give explanation or justify your answers from evidence and things that you've seen in class activities? So you're going to want to read through this in a little bit more detail, but based off of this rubric, what grade do you think you deserve? Should you get a 0, a 1 or a 2, a 3 or a 4, a 5 or a 6, or a 7 or an 8? Just asking for your opinion based off of what we're looking at in terms of how we grade your conclusion answers. Okay, so if I go back to my design notebook, that's an aspire to answer question. You don't have to do that, but that will go above and beyond, give you some idea of how we're grading. And then lastly, you see this last daily summary. What did you learn? And what was one example of success that you experienced today? Then you see the stop sign, the end of task number 5, and there is nothing left in there, which means you are completed, or you have completed this design notebook. Once you are done, go back to Schoology and submit, and your teachers can help you do that if you're not sure on how to submit or turn this in. All right? So if you have any questions, please reach out to your teacher, but you are going to answer all of those conclusions, and then think about why are we doing this? What's the purpose of reflection? Make sure you have answered all your essential questions in your design notebook as well. So reach out to your teachers for help. Good luck. Get this done and completed.